Conservative Democrat Senator Joe Manchin is committed as ever to maintaining the Senate filibuster. In fact, he went on a media tour over the weekend. I mean, he was on almost every single weekend show just to talk about how he firmly stands by his decision to maintain the filibuster. However, he might bend a little bit on the possibility of reforming the filibuster. Let's start off with the first video where he makes it clear that he's committed to keeping the filibuster because Republicans are his friends and he wants to make sure that his friends are heard. Take a listen.
Sure. You would consider making it a little harder to invoke the filibuster so that you just don't automatically have 60 votes that you need for any legislation?
I'd make it harder to get rid of the filibuster. I'm supporting the filibuster. I'm going to continue to support the filibuster. I think it defines who we are as a Senate. I'll make it harder to get rid of it, but it should be painful if you want to use it. You should make sure the place works to where, okay, I want to work with you. How can we do this? How do we move forward? My Republican friends are my friends. They're not my enemies. And my Democrats is my colleagues. They're not my enemy either. That's my caucus. Together, we've got to make this place work, and it should be harder to invoke pain. It should be painful for us. Don't make it painful for the other side.
So what he's referring to there is the possibility of what's known as a talking filibuster as opposed to a legislative filibuster. As the Senate filibuster stands today, you would need 60 votes in order to pass most legislation, unless you can do it through the reconciliation process, and that would only require a simple majority. However, under a talking filibuster, the minority party would be able to block legislation by literally talking, like standing up there giving a speech and not stopping until they successfully block the legislation. Now, Manchin seems to be willing to reform the filibuster under what he's saying there, Cenk, but I haven't seen him actually attempt to get the process rolling. So far, he's just been this warrior for maintaining the filibuster. And this is the first time I've heard him say that he would like to maybe consider a talking filibuster instead.
All right, so let me give a quick history of filibusters. Up until recent times, the filibuster was used less than once a year on average. Okay, when Obama became president and the Republicans took the Senate in 2010, it started averaging 80 times a year. 80 times a year. That's because Mitch McConnell and the Republicans said, no, we're not gonna let Obama pass anything. The press never noticed. Because they were all born yesterday, everything is even. The filibuster used to be used before by Democrats and Republicans. It's now used by Democrats and Republicans. No, there's a giant difference between less than 1 and 80 a year. And when that happened, one of the things I said on this show, because we've been around forever, was why don't they make them do it like the old days, a talking filibuster? Because if you're gonna do 80 a year, it will become evident. Because number one, Democrats tell the media they're doing it 80 times a year and they're breaking every record there is, you idiots. Second of all, make them do talking filibusters so everyone can see with their own eyes. Oh my God, nothing's getting done because these Republicans got up 80 times to talk for days at a time. Nope, the idiot Democrats are like, okay, sure. And I said the Republicans took the Senate earlier. No, of course they were the minority. That's why they were doing filibusters, or whenever they needed filibusters because of the different votes. But the Democrats never made them do it. They made doing filibusters against their own agenda super easy. And you know how little respect I have for Democratic leadership because they've never earned any of that respect. So here we are now, over a decade later, and they're like, hey, maybe we should make them talk. Okay, now, first of all, of course. Now, second of all, why is he saying this now? And how is this going to play out where it screws you? Because that's usually how it goes, right? And that's likely how it's going to go this time. The reason why we're even having a conversation about it is because Democrats need to pass HR 1. They're not going to pass the whole thing because it has terrific anti-corruption measures. There's no way in the world that they're going to agree to that. So they're going to strip that out and then pretend that's what, oh, well, golly gee, okay, that's when we're gonna do the filibuster. Now, we will do our job at that point and we'll scream from the rooftops, including you guys, I hope. No, don't let them take out the anti-corruption stuff. Why would they kill the filibuster afterwards, right? So, but they need to pass the pro-voting stuff for their own power, because the more people vote, the more the Democrats have a chance of winning. So Manchin is not going to be able to block them. So at some point, they're gonna have to do something about the filibuster. But part of what Manchin's trying to do with this half measure is to drag out that process so we cannot get anything done for 2 years going forward, except passing half of HR 1. And then at that point, the Republicans will be more likely to win the majority in the Senate in the next election, and the Democrats will kill the filibuster right before they become the minority. They literally did the same exact thing with judicial filibusters and Harry Reid. So it has excellent historical precedent. I don't know why no one else in media has ever covered politics before, but they're all going along like, oh, Manchin's got a new idea. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, I wonder if he's trying to get to the right place. No, he's trying to ironically filibuster before they kill it and hand it over to the Republicans. If you want to end the filibuster, do it right now. Do it right now and pass your entire agenda. If you wait to the end of this term, only an idiot or a liar would do that.
Now, he says that he's also willing to consider using the reconciliation process in the future if his Republican colleagues refuse to work together. And honestly, I don't really know why Manchin is under any assumption or any impression that the Republican Party has any interest in working with Democrats, especially after 8 years of the Obama administration, where they did everything they could to obstruct any policies under that administration. Now, he mentions reconciliation in the interview as well. Let's go to this next clip where he talks about it in more detail.
Let me say this, I'm not willing to go into reconciliation until we at least give bipartisanship or get working together or allow the Senate to do its job. Just by assuming that, hey, they'll never work with us, that's the other side. Right. This is tribal. Republicans will never agree on anything, or Democrats will never agree. I don't subscribe to that, I don't buy into that. Well, I'm not going to change my mind on the filibuster. I will change my mind if we need to go to a reconciliation to where we have to get something done once I know they have process into it. But I'm not going to go there until my Republican friends have the ability to have their say also. And I'm hoping they'll get involved to the point to where we have 10 of them that'll work with 50 of us, or 15 of them that'll work with 45 of us.
Can you imagine if life worked that way, where despite all of the overwhelming evidence saying otherwise, you continue to believe something, right? So I want to believe that I can charge as much as I want on my credit cards and I never have to worry. I do not believe that collectors will come after me after I charge all of my credit cards and refuse to pay them. That is what I believe. That is what I subscribe to. No, that's not how life works, Joe Manchin. You've been in the Senate. You know what Republican lawmakers are like. You know that they have no interest in working with Democrats unless it's policy that would provide more handouts to corporations, more tax cuts to the rich. That's when we do actually see quite a bit of bipartisanship in the Senate. But in regard to passing a voting rights bill, when it comes to all of the infrastructure bill, all of the other priorities that the Biden administration claims it has, the fact that Manchin thinks that they can pass those pieces of legislation with 60 senators voting in favor is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that he's even trying to have this conversation right now is stupid.
Yeah, and I think that there might be one possible exception to what you're saying, and that exception is far worse. So first of all, him saying, I don't subscribe to this idea that we're tribal, you're 100% right on that, Anna. I mean, Chuck Todd, you're right there. Why don't you say something? Hey, the Republicans haven't given you guys a single vote in decades. Okay, so what leads you to believe that they would give you a vote now? I mean, it's an absurd thing to say. There's the COVID relief, enormously popular, including with an overwhelming majority of Republican voters, and they still gave you 0 votes. What leads you to believe that Republicans would ever give you a vote? It's not tribal to say that. It's reality. It's what's happened. You're saying absurd things that make no sense. Why are you saying that, Senator Manchin? Okay, now the one exception that might be what's even worse. If you notice, he said not only could be 50 and 10 Republicans, that's never going to happen. But the second option is more likely. 45 Democrats and 15 Republicans to overcome a filibuster. That means we cut out the 5 Democrats that are arguably progressive in the Senate, and we pass a Republican proposal, one that is like leans heavily in the Republican direction. So we cut out Bernie Sanders and Warren and the others, and we grab 15 Republicans. We pretend it's a Democratic proposal, but we pass a Republican proposal. So that's the only other option. The last part of it is, he noticed, he said, well, I'm now open to maybe overrule the reconciliation. That means maybe overruling the parliamentarian on a couple of things. But he only says that after he used the parliamentarian and reconciliation as an excuse to kill an increase in the minimum wage. The bottom line is all of this leads to the same exact thing. Joe Manchin basically saying, I only work for my corporate donors. So if I can find 15 Republican friends who have the same corporate donors as I do, we'll pass legislation that helps the Chamber of Commerce and multinational corporations and screws over the little guy. That I will agree to. But if you're gonna do any of these progressive proposals, I'm gonna block every single one of them. That's the translation for what you just saw.
So we do have a poll on this because we want you guys to weigh in. And the question is, what should we do with the filibuster? We want to know what your opinion is. And the options include eliminate the filibuster, reform it to make it more painful, or leave the filibuster in place as is. Go to tyt.com/polls to participate in that. And we will update you with how you guys weighed in later in the show.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.